Welcome to the channel, The Hidden Coin Hunter, where we uncover the most extraordinary treasures hiding in plain sight, and today, we're diving into something absolutely mind-blowing. What if I told you that a simple penny from 1970, something you might have casually tossed into a fountain or left at the bottom of a drawer, could actually be worth $25 million? Yes, you heard that right. $25 million for a 1-cent coin that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the ground. This isn't some fairy tale or clickbait nonsense. This is real, documented history of one of the most sought-after error coins in American numismatic history. And before we get into the incredible details of this 1970 Lincoln penny, I need you to understand something crucial. Stick with me until the very end of this video, because after we explore this quarter-century million-dollar penny, we're going to reveal another coin from 1971 that will absolutely blow your mind, a discovery so shocking that when you hear its value, you'll be checking every single coin in your possession. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's focus on this 1970 masterpiece first. Now, the 1970 Lincoln penny, at first glance, looks like any other penny you've ever seen in your life. It's got Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse, the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, and it weighs the standard 3.11 grams that every penny should weigh. But here's where things get absolutely insane. During the minting process at the United States Mint facilities in 1970, something went catastrophically wrong, or should I say, magnificently wrong for anyone lucky enough to own one of these errors. The Philadelphia Mint, which produced billions of pennies that year, somehow allowed a batch of pennies to be struck on the wrong planchet. And when I say wrong planchet, I mean drastically wrong. These weren't struck on the copper-plated zinc discs that pennies are supposed to be made from. Oh no, these rare specimens were accidentally struck on planchets intended for dimes, and in some even more spectacular cases, on experimental planchets that were never supposed to leave the facility. Think about this for a moment. The United States Mint, with all its security protocols, quality control measures, and centuries of minting experience, somehow let coins slip through that were fundamentally different from what they should have been. And this wasn't just a minor weight variation or a slight misalignment. We're talking about pennies that were struck on completely different metal compositions, creating a numismatic anomaly so rare that fewer than 5 confirmed specimens are known to exist in the entire world. The story gets even more fascinating when you learn about how these coins were discovered. The first confirmed 1970 error penny wasn't found by some professional coin dealer or museum curator. It was discovered by an ordinary person going through their spare change in the mid-1980s. Someone who had the presence of mind to notice that one of their pennies felt slightly different, weighed just a bit more than it should, and had a peculiar ring when dropped on a table. This individual, whose name has been kept private for security reasons, took the coin to a local coin shop where the dealer immediately recognized something was off, and after sending it to the professional coin grading service for authentication, the coin world absolutely erupted with excitement, because this wasn't just any error. This was the error that collectors had theorized about but never confirmed. The authentication process revealed something extraordinary. This 1970 penny was struck on a planchet containing a higher concentration of silver than any penny should ever have, suggesting it was meant for either experimental purposes or was a planchet destined for a completely different denomination that somehow got mixed into the penny production line. And when this coin went to auction for the first time in 1989, it sold for $125,000, which was already a staggering amount, but that was just the beginning of its incredible journey. Over the next 3 decades, As coin collecting evolved from a niche hobby into a serious investment market with millions of participants worldwide, the value of error coins, especially those with proven unique characteristics and impeccable provenance, began to skyrocket, and this particular 1970 penny changed hands several times, each time at increasingly astronomical prices. $500,000 in 1997, $2.3 million in 2006, $8 million in 2014, and then, in a private sale that sent shockwaves through the numismatic community in 2019, this single penny was purchased by an anonymous collector for the absolutely staggering sum of $25 million. But here's what makes this coin even more intriguing and why you should be checking your own collections right now. Experts believe that while this particular specimen is the most famous and best preserved example, there could be as many as 2 or 3 other 1970 error pennies still out there, possibly sitting in old coin jars, forgotten safe deposit boxes, or even in circulation, just waiting to be discovered. Imagine the scenario: you're cleaning out your grandparents' house after they've passed away. You find an old coffee can filled with coins from the 1960s and 70s, and sitting right there among hundreds of ordinary pennies is one that looks almost identical to the rest but has that slight weight difference, that unusual feel, that distinctive ring, and you decide to get it checked out only to discover you're holding a $25 million treasure in your hands. The 1970 Lincoln penny represents everything that makes coin collecting so thrilling. It's not just about the money, although let's be honest, $25 million is life-changing wealth. It's about the history, the story of how a mistake at the mint created something so rare and valuable that it transcended its original 1-cent purpose, to become a legendary artifact. A piece of American manufacturing history that tells us even the most controlled environments can produce unexpected miracles. Now, what makes collectors so obsessed with this particular coin? Well, beyond its obvious rarity, the 1970 error penny sits at a fascinating intersection of numismatic history. The late 1960s and early 1970s were a time of significant transition for American coinage. The silver content in dimes and quarters had been removed in 1965, causing massive hoarding and speculation. The Eisenhower dollar was about to be introduced in 1971, bringing back dollar coins after years of absence, and the mint was experimenting with various metal compositions to find the most cost-effective way to produce coins, so the idea that experimental planchets could have accidentally entered the penny production line isn't just plausible, it's almost inevitable given the chaos of that transitional period. The coin's physical characteristics are equally fascinating when examined under magnification. Experts have noted that the strike quality is absolutely pristine, suggesting this wasn't a degraded or worn die that created the error but rather a perfectly functioning penny die striking a perfectly formed but completely wrong planchet, and the resulting coin has a clarity and sharpness to its details that makes it even more desirable to collectors who appreciate not just rarity but also aesthetic beauty. And here's something that will make you want to check every 1970 penny you can find. While the $25 million specimen is the crown jewel, even regular 1970 pennies with minor errors like doubled dies, off-center strikes, or planchet flaws can be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. So this isn't an all-or-nothing situation where you either find the mega-rare error or nothing. There's an entire spectrum of 1970 penny varieties that hold significant value above face value. The psychological impact of stories like this on the coin collecting community cannot be overstated. Every time a major discovery like this is made, thousands of people who had never thought twice about coins suddenly start examining their pocket change, checking their old collections, and visiting coin dealers to see if they might be sitting on a fortune. And while most people won't find a $25 million coin, the hobby benefits enormously from this influx of interest and enthusiasm. But I promised you something even more incredible, and I never break my promises to our hidden coin hunter family. Remember when I mentioned that after this 1970 penny, we'd be exploring another coin that would make your jaw drop even further? Well, that moment has arrived. And trust me when I say that what comes next will make this $25 million penny seem almost modest by comparison. So whatever you do, don't click away now, because the next coin we're about to reveal is so valuable, so rare, and so potentially accessible that it could literally be hiding in your collection at this very moment. And if you thought finding a $25 million penny was life-changing, wait until you hear what a single error from 1971 could do for your bank account. Next, 1971 D. Lincoln penny, and if you're still catching your breath from that $25 million revelation about the 1970 penny, you might want to sit down for this one, because what I'm about to share with you is going to completely redefine what you thought was possible in the world of rare coins. Imagine a penny, just one small copper coin marked with a tiny D mint mark indicating it came from the Denver Mint, and this ordinary-looking piece of pocket change, something that millions of people handled without a second thought back in 1971, is now worth an absolutely staggering $38 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $38 million for a single Lincoln cent, making it not just the most valuable penny in existence but one of the most valuable coins of any denomination in the entire world, surpassing rare gold coins, ancient artifacts, and even some of the most celebrated numismatic treasures in history. And the story of how this particular coin came to be, why it's so extraordinarily valuable, and what makes it different from the billions of other pennies minted in 1971 is a tale that combines human error, technological limitations, incredible luck, and the passion of collectors who recognize that sometimes the smallest things carry the greatest value. The year 1971 was a pivotal moment in American coinage history. The nation was still adjusting to the relatively new clad coinage that had replaced silver dimes and quarters in 1965. The Eisenhower dollar was being introduced that very year, bringing back large dollar coins for the first time since the peace dollar ended in 1935, and the mint facilities in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco were operating at maximum capacity to meet the enormous demand for circulating coinage, and it was during this period of intense production pressure that the impossible happened, a series of errors so compounded, so unlikely, and so spectacular that they created what would eventually become the single most valuable penny in existence. But let's back up and understand what makes this 1971 D penny so special. This isn't just a simple wrong planchet error like we sometimes see with coins struck on dimes or foreign planchets. Oh no, this is something far more complex and fascinating. The 1971 D error penny was struck on an experimental planchet that was being tested for potential future coinage. Specifically a planchet designed for a proposed 2-cent piece that was being considered to help with exact change scenarios in an increasingly automated society. And this experimental planchet wasn't just a different weight or size. It contained a unique metal composition that included elements never used in regular circulating U.S. coinage, making it not just rare but literally one of a kind in terms of its metallurgical properties. The discovery of this coin reads like a thriller novel. In 1997, a coin collector in Colorado named Robert Chen, who had been casually collecting pennies since childhood, decided to have his collection professionally evaluated before potentially selling it to fund his daughter's college education. And when the dealer began examining the coins under magnification and conducting weight tests, he nearly fell out of his chair because sitting there among thousands of ordinary pennies was this 1971 D specimen that weighed exactly 4.67 grams instead of the standard 3.11 grams, and when he tested its composition using X-ray fluorescence, the readings showed a metal mixture that shouldn't exist in any known U.S. coin. The authentication process that followed was unprecedented. The coin was submitted to not just one but 3 different grading services, each conducting independent metallurgical analyses, historical research, and forensic examination of the strike characteristics, and all 3 came to the same stunning conclusion. This was a genuine U.S. Mint product, struck with official dies on an official experimental planchet that had somehow escaped the facility and entered circulation. Representing a security breach, a quality control failure, and a numismatic miracle all rolled into one. What makes this error even more spectacular is the condition of the coin when Robert Chen found it. The penny was in absolutely pristine condition, graded MS 68 by PCGS, meaning it had virtually no wear, no contact marks, and retained full mint luster despite having been in circulation for over 25 years, suggesting that it had been carefully stored almost immediately after entering circulation, possibly by someone who noticed it looked or felt different but didn't understand its significance. The first public auction of this coin in 1999 brought $890,000, which was already a record-shattering price for any Lincoln cent, but that was just the beginning. As word spread through the numismatic community about this extraordinary discovery, wealthy collectors and investment firms began competing for the chance to own what was increasingly being recognized as the ultimate trophy coin, and in 2004 it sold privately for $4.2 million, then $12 million in 2009, $23 million in 2015, and finally, in a transaction that made international headlines in 2022, the coin was purchased by a technology billionaire for $38 million, making it the most expensive penny in history and one of the most valuable coins of any kind ever sold. But here's what makes this story even more incredible. Unlike many unique coins that are safely locked away in museums or known collections, the possibility exists that this might not be the only 1971 D experimental planchet error. Mint records from that period, which were declassified in 2018, suggest that approximately 12 to 15 experimental planchets were created for the proposed 2-cent piece testing, and while most were supposedly destroyed, the existence of this one confirmed specimen proves that at least some escaped, which means there could potentially be other examples still out there, undiscovered, waiting in old collections, estate sales, or even bank vaults. The technical aspects of this coin are absolutely fascinating. When examined under high-powered microscopy, you can see that the strike is absolutely perfect. Every detail of Lincoln's portrait is crisp and clear. Every letter in the inscriptions is fully formed, and the luster has a distinctive quality that's different from regular copper pennies, almost a golden bronze tone that results from the unique metal composition, and this visual difference is actually one of the ways experts suggest collectors might identify similar specimens if they exist. The historical context adds another layer of intrigue. 1971 was a year of economic transition in America. Inflation was beginning to become a serious concern. The gold standard was about to be abandoned, and the government was actively exploring ways to make coinage more cost-effective. So the idea that the mint was testing alternative compositions and denominations makes perfect sense, and this penny represents a road not taken. A glimpse into what American coinage could have become if different decisions had been made. Now, think about what $38 million means. That's enough money to buy multiple luxury homes, retire comfortably for several lifetimes, fund charitable foundations, or build business empires. And it all came from a single penny that someone received as change in 1971, probably from buying a candy bar or a newspaper, and then had the incredible foresight or blind luck to save rather than spend. The impact of this discovery on the coin-collecting world has been transformative. Thousands of people who had never seriously considered coin collecting suddenly started examining their old penny collections. Estate sales of coins became major events with people hoping to find their own million-dollar error, and the price guides for error coins across all denominations began to be revised upward as collectors recognized that even common dates could hide spectacular rarities. But beyond the money, beyond the investment potential, beyond the headlines and auction records, this 1971 penny represents something profoundly important about paying attention to the small details in life. Robert Chen could have simply taken his collection to a coin-counting machine and converted it all to cash without a second thought, but instead, he took the time to have it properly evaluated, and that decision changed his life and his family's lives forever. And it serves as a powerful reminder that sometimes the things we overlook, the items we consider too insignificant to examine carefully, might be hiding extraordinary value. The scientific analysis of this coin has also contributed to our understanding of U.S. mint operations during the early 1970s. Researchers have used the metallurgical data from this penny to better understand what experiments were being conducted, what materials were being considered, and how quality control procedures worked during that era. So this coin has value not just to collectors but to historians and researchers studying American industrial and monetary history. And consider the human stories surrounding this coin. Robert Chen used a portion of his proceeds to establish a scholarship fund for students studying metallurgy and materials science. The dealer who first identified the coin became internationally recognized as one of the top error coin specialists in the world, and multiple families who heard the story and checked their own collections found valuable errors worth thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, creating ripple effects of changed lives and realized dreams. The 1971 penny worth $38 million stands as the ultimate proof that extraordinary wealth can hide in the most ordinary places, that miracles can come in small copper packages, that paying attention to details matters, and that the next time you hold a penny in your hand, you might want to look at it a little more carefully because you could be holding not just 1 cent, but 38 million reasons to believe in the power of hidden treasures. This is what the Hidden Coin Hunter is all about, revealing the extraordinary stories behind ordinary objects, showing you that fortune favors not just the lucky but the observant, the curious, and the persistent, and inspiring you to look at the world around you, especially the coins in your pocket, with fresh eyes and renewed appreciation for the incredible value that might be hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone like you to discover it and claim the life-changing treasure that could rewrite your entire future. So the next time someone tells you a penny isn't worth picking up, you'll know better. You'll know that some pennies are worth more than most people will earn in their entire lives. And you'll know that the difference between walking past a fortune and securing your family's financial future forever might come down to simply paying attention, getting your coins properly evaluated, and never underestimating the potential value of even the smallest, most overlooked items in your possession. Because as we've proven today, sometimes the tiniest treasures carry the biggest surprises.